Thank you for being here on Offsite Dirt with our glorious sponsor, Wesco. The one wonderful thing about Wesco are their partnerships, and one in particular is with Leviton. So we've had these two special guests, and I have to say, the set design of these two guests have really impressed us. So I can only imagine what this brand and this company is doing and how it's going to focus on offsite solutions and being able to help us with different categories of what they actually bring to our consumers. So Kent, how are you today?
Audrey, I am doing great today. It's really good to be with you on the program. So happy to be here and happy to have, as you mentioned, great partners working with us from Leviton. Today we've got Rick Forbush and also Rick Gavenda with us from Leviton, and we're just super excited to have a conversation with them and sort of pose some questions and see where this conversation takes us.
Thank you. I'm so excited too. So we have two Ricks, which is always going to be fun. And we're going to have each one of you give us a brief background of your role at the company. And then we're going to dive into our first question.
All right. Thanks, Audrey. Rick Forbush here. Great to be here today. Appreciate the kind introduction. I wish I could take credit for the set design, but I can't do that. So I'm the Director of National Builder Sales here at Leviton. Also head up our business development group as it pertains to the Leviton Load Center, which is one of the products we'll talk about today a little bit. But that's my role. I've been here at Leviton for going on 7 years now, and looking forward to the chat today.
Audrey, Rick Gavenda, want to thank you for the opportunity to join you in the audience here today. Kent, always a pleasure seeing you, and anything that we get involved with you always turns out to be a positive. Director of National Accounts that has responsibility for Wesco from a national perspective. Been with the company for about 38 years now in a variety of different positions, and we're excited to be here today to talk about how we can improve some of the labor issues some of you folks may be challenged right now in the marketplace.
Thank you for doing that. And Kent, maybe many people may not know, can you give us just a brief background of Wesco and your partnership and actually what your role is at the company as well?
Absolutely. So my role within Wesco is I'm a business development manager for our manufactured structures group and division within the company. And that group's been operating, helping OEM type builders produce their products for almost 50 years as a group within the company of Wesco. So we're super excited at the partnerships that we've built over those years, a long-term partnership with Leviton, working with different products with them and really bringing new things to marketplace. And I think that's a lot of what we're talking about today is really increasing those technological advances that are coming to builders and really beginning to offer builders some opportunities to really get efficient in things that they do, which is going to lead to a more efficient house and greater activity for the homeowner as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love that we're talking about homeowners, but we're also talking about offsite solutions and getting these products into manufacturing facilities because the offsite solution industry is building. And so it's great to have these types of conversations and allowing people to know about the product. So I'm going to jump right in here and ask you both, how can they save time during the construction process with your product? Maybe first off, give us a little background about the product and then tell us about your process.
So I'll start off as far as a little bit about Leviton, right? The audience may not be aware of us. We're still a privately held company. We started back in 1906, making the gas mantles for the street lamps in Brooklyn. Met a gentleman by the name of Thomas Edison. He had this thing called the light bulb and came out with the full chain socket. Fast forward to today, fourth generation family run, close to 7,500 employees. Truly a global company, operating in 100 countries around the globe. And the exciting thing is we produce roughly about 27,000 products today, and we self-manufacture roughly about 95% of it. So the Leviton family wants to ensure that the raw material is going in. It's going to have their name on the finished product going out of the factories and into the homes of your customers here today. So one of the exciting things that we got into about 4 or 5 years ago was our load center, and I'm going to hand that over to Rick to talk about that portion of it.
Perfect. Thanks, Rick. So we talked about in the lead-in things like, time savings. We talked about things like efficiencies. We talked about things like technology. We mentioned things about those efficiencies kind of translating through the manufacturing facility and out into the market, if you will, to have the homeowner have a good experience with a system in the home that is scalable and can advance as the technology just continues to advance at a rate that is really really pretty hard to keep up with these days, for lack of a better way to describe it, right? So those are all the things that we kept in mind as we developed Leviton Load Center. So I'll talk about that a little bit. Number one, when it comes to the Leviton Residential Load Center, is that a lot of the feedback we got was that we want this load center to be easy to install, but more importantly, fast to install. So we're looking to pass along and have these offsite builders certainly gain efficiencies by using the product. And what we've done is we've designed the load center here that will allow for a few things. It plays perfectly into a manufacturing environment, because when the load center is wired, all the wiring is done prior to any breaker installation. So it wires in the sense almost like a terminal strip type of wiring, rather than wiring up to a certain neutral bar at the top or a certain bar down below, or different points within the enclosure. So the wiring goes straight in, it's all terminated right together prior to any breakers being installed. But the real efficiency comes in is when the breakers are installed, because along with that, what we also developed, and we put out the market 6 years ago now. So it's really been through the paces out there. It's really worked well and been well accepted. But the branch breakers that are installed into the Leviton Load Center do not require any wiring. So from a 60 amp breaker and down, which is the majority of the breakers in the load center, those are going to be installed really fast with no wiring to the breaker. It's a fully plug-on breaker system from 60 amp down. Then we do, of course, have branch breakers that'll range up to 125 amps. So looking to gain a lot of production time, a lot of efficiency, with some speed installed, if you will, that certainly fits into a manufacturing environment quite well.
Yeah, Rick, that really plays over into your discussion of, how it can scale also for the homeowner once it's placed in the home, right? So tell us a little bit about the smart breakers and how those are easily placed into service even after the homeowner takes occupancy.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so in terms of scaling, right, that's the buzzword out there. So the load center arrives on site as a traditional load center, form, fit, and function. But a lot of what's going on in the market now, we hear words like electrification, we hear words like service expansion, certainly as it rolls into EV chargers, various types of heat pumps, other types of systems going into these homes that requires two things. Really requires more capacity, just for the traditional loads that I just mentioned, and the loads that might probably be added to these homes down the line, but also the technology that you mentioned, Kent, that rolls into. So a couple of things will happen. The load center is living its life normally, let's call it. And then, homeowner decides, hey, I need to add EV charging, or I need to add a different type of system. Because the Leviton Load Center has been installed, that unit already has a 225 amp capable copper bus structure. So from an electrical standpoint, can be upgraded. Main breakers can even be changed without upgrading a bus structure. So that plays into the kind of the service change versus panel change thing, and we can take folks out of that. Your question about smart, yes, any Leviton Load Center, whether it's to be installed or has previously been installed, once it's living its life out in the market, can easily be upgraded to accommodate smart breakers. A couple steps happen to that. Any Leviton Load Center can have a small whole home energy monitor installed inside the load center, which is really a little plastic box, if you will, that gets installed and fed power from within the panel. And that allows the customer to then go ahead and choose smart breakers circuit by circuit to decide which loads in the home they want to understand the consumption there. They want the ability to program those types of loads based on various efficiencies that they want to gain in terms of their consumption in the home. In other words, if the home's going to live its life in an area where power charges or demand rates come into play, they can schedule these breakers to only deliver power certain times of the day. But the idea being we're fully scalable. The breakers simply are going to come, the traditional breaker that the panel arrived with is simply going to unplug out of the breaker. The smart breaker is going to then go ahead and plug on, and we'll have a smart breaker that matches every single standard breaker that we have from a amperage standpoint and a protection level standpoint, whether it be an arc fault, a dual function, keeping up with current code, and also just peeling out, lack of a better term, that breaker that was originally there and adding the smart breaker in, making the connection through the hub, and then pulling down the My Leviton app and kind of working from there to upgrade to accommodate the technology that they're interested in.
And I'll piggyback on that, Ken. You talk about smart, right? People ask, why do we get into the load center business? Well, load center hasn't changed in 40 or 50 years, right? So we saw an opportunity years ago as some of the codes were changing. As an example, in 2016, there's a code requirement from a wiring device manufacturer on GFIs, right? A GFI per UL has to test itself once every 3 hours to make sure it's providing protection for the consumer, right? If it determines that it can't provide protection to the consumer, it automatically shuts itself down. So providing safety for the consumer. We took that same technology and put it into a different form factor into our circuit breaker box. We're the only manufacturer of load centers that has that type of technology to protect the consumer. Again, if the GFI breaker trips, and if it senses that there's still concerns of providing power to the consumer, it will not reset itself. Will not. You physically have to go in and replace the breaker. Some folks that may be considered an annoyance, Leviton, we're here to protect the consumers, and we're all about safety at the end of the day. So we kind of take that same technology out of the outlet and put it into a different form factor with that load center.
That's amazing. And I think technology is really the key, and being able to expand into safety and create a platform that has these end-to-end solutions. When you look at that and you look at just even in the last 3 years, how much your company has grown, where do you think that where are these efficiencies really falling into? I know that you have the superior GFI. I know that you had the LED diagnosis, you have surge protection, you have the second generation smart circuit breakers. What's the future for you guys? Where are we going with all of this?
Yep. Yeah, great question. Yeah, there's a lot of different branches on that one, I suppose, right? So where are we going? We're going, again, we're just going to continue along that road. I look at the Leviton Load Center essentially today as a very cool, modern, from aesthetics through capabilities type of load center that tells a huge story. But in other respects, it's also a piece of infrastructure. So if that infrastructure is in place, a lot of what we just talked about and more is at the fingertips of the homeowner when they decide to do it. In terms of where we're going, it's expansion along those same lines. So, can we make this, can we gain efficiencies again? What will the next pass be? How do we make this faster? How do we develop end-to-end type solutions where not only are you gaining speed on the installation of the load center, say in a production environment, but you're also gaining speed at the other end of the circuit in terms of installation on devices. So we're going to try to make that connection from end to end. And then in technology, it'll be, more control, more information we can feed customers, more things being incorporated into our app, into our My Leviton platform to get into a more whole home Leviton type of approach. So we get away from a sort of a disjointed type of a smart home application, and then continuing to make things easy for homeowners to upgrade, whether they have a fear of technology, a fear of wiring, a fear of things like that. We want to keep things simple for them, but allow them to grow as, kind of as the future rolls along, right?
So as an example, renewable energies, right? Whether it's solar, whether it's battery, whether it's even backup generators. Rick had made mention as far as with my Leviton app, we have this smart new hub that we come out with. What's pretty slick about that is you now have the ability to tie in, first off, a set of CTs to see your total KW usage. As a homeowner, you can see everything that's going on within the home, kind of look at, double check the utilities, right? Second one, I may have a solar field up on top of my roof as an example. I can tie that in to be able to see what the usage is from there. I then have the ability, I may have one of these battery walls. I want to be able to see what's sitting stored there off the My Leviton app. But the really slick thing about the fourth application is on generators, right? Today in a typical install, you have a panel, you have an automatic transfer switch, and then you have a sub panel. With going without solution, you don't need now to have that sub panel. Why? Because off of that hub, we kind of have a set of low voltage wires that goes over to the automatic transfer switch. So when the power drops out, we see that contact closure. And then because we've populated our panel with some smart breakers, I should say, it'll then tell which breakers are essential and which breakers are non-essential. Non-essentials are shut off, power comes back on, breakers now automatically come back on. So from an installation perspective, you don't need to have that sub panel installed, or as an additional option, homeowner may say after the second or third power outage, I only have 8 circuits. I'd love to have 12 circuits. Historically in the past, contractor would come in, take that sub panel out, put a new one in. With our solution, all you have to do is pop out the so-called dumb breaker, put a smart breaker in, associate it to the app. What do you want it to be? A essential or non-essential breaker? And they're done. A lot of times the homeowner can do it themselves. But, end of the day, the panel was really designed with the consumer in mind. It's approachable. We have options with clear doors on them. What's going on with the LEDs? There's a reason why LEDs come on. They may blink a certain direction, at least to give some of those contractors that are supporting the homeowner some diagnostics before they roll a truck out and those type of things. So a lot of cool stuff that's coming out of pipeline from Leviton for sure.
Can you tell he's passionate? I mean, he's super passionate. And let me tell you, that's one of the things that makes our relationship with Leviton so valuable from a distribution standpoint, and just working with them. I can honestly say, been working with them since the early 90s, and they are not happy with the status quo. They're continuously bringing out new products, talking about new things. And if you don't remember anything about what Rick just said, except pop it out and pop it in, start there. We can take you the rest of the way. It's so exciting to have these two guys on the program today and to be with you, Audrey.
Thank you, Kat. I think that's so important. And I love this idea of this app and this technology that we can follow and that we can program. With your clients and your builders, are they finding the system pretty easy and adaptable? Is it a pretty simple system with your app?
I think the builders are finding it very easy to install the Leviton product out there in the marketplace. We've got several large builders that are using this on major projects, from single family to multifamily projects, and just excited to see what the future has in store for us with Leviton.
And what's nice about the whole platform, it's scalable. It's not like an all-in, all-or-nothing type of thing. If you want to go with the load center with smarts, great. You want to tie in some of our lighting controls? Great. You want to try and tie in our car charger? Great. More and more, we're just trying to expand it. As an example, something as simplistic as the GFI we chatted about earlier, right? Historically, in the past, the only way you knew the power was out was when it tripped, and it's tied to a refrigerator. Everything's spoiled inside of it, right? So now an option one was, well, we now have a GFI with a built-in audible, right? Came out with that several years ago. So if it happened to be a refrigerator, it's in the garage, that's holding the deer meat from the weekend hunt, as an example. I'll hear a beep when I walk into the garage, my GFI tripped. So now we've incorporated some of the Wi-Fi smarts, right, into a GFI. So if I happen to be on vacation now, one of my circuits that are controlling a fridge or freezer, or even a sump pump in the Northeast and those type of things, I'll get a notification on my Leviton app to say, your GFI just tripped, you got to take care of that, those type of things. So a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of cool stuff. Well, we have discussed so many different opportunities of why Wesco and Leviton have partnered, and on Offsite Dirt, we're so excited to be able to tell these stories and allow our customers to know really what's happening in the marketplace and to see that technology is expanding and changing, and we can get these notifications and we have these apps to provide our life a better place to live, a little bit more simpler. And both of these companies provide that sweetly and presently today. So thank you both for being here. Thank you, Kent. Thank you, Rick and Rick. It was so nice to have all of you here.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Audrey.
Appreciate it.
And that's a wrap on Offsite.